So this side of the paper, 9-8, is a little bit different because this has metric measurements. So we can't use our regular scale. We need to use a ruler that has centimeters and millimeters on it. So I went over and I measured the dimensions of from the leftmost border to the rightmost border. My total width is 247 millimeters. From the top of the title block to the top of the drawing space has a total height of 161 millimeters. It's kind of helpful that these two are odd numbers because when we're using metric, instead of 1 inch of space in between, we're going to use 25 millimeters, which is essentially the metric equivalent of 1 inch. Okay, now most of the time when I do my math to figure out where things go, I go ahead and I put it on the top portion of my paper. I'm not really grading this for you guys, it just kind of helps me to see where you got a little bit lost. Part that I'm really grading is right here in the middle. So I'm going to figure out how far from the left edge I need to go. So I'm going to take my 247 millimeters total width minus the width of my object, which is 100, plus my 25 millimeters in the middle, plus my total depth, which is 40 from front to back. And that gets divided by 2. So when I do that, it ends up being 82 millimeters divided by 2, which equals 41 millimeters from the side. Okay, so now I'm going to come through and down at the bottom of my page, I'm going to scoot this down a little, I'm going to measure 41 millimeters, so that's 4 centimeters plus 1 extra little mark. That's 41 millimeters. Then I'm going to scoot my ruler over. 100 millimeters equals 10 centimeters. So I'm going to make a mark there. That's a little bit off. There we go. Then 25, so that'd be 12.5 centimeters. Okay, and then this one, I just want to make sure I don't mess it up, so I'm going to fudge it over, and it's going to be plus 4 centimeters because that's 40 millimeters. I'm going to make my mark, and then I'm going to project those lines all straight up. Remember, we're using our 5H pencil for our construction weight lines. Okay, we have all of our width information and our depth laid out. So now for the total height, okay, I'm going to use my measurement of 161 minus my 60 plus 25 millimeters between plus 40 millimeters total depth. Divide that whole situation by 2. Okay, so when I take 161 minus 125, that equals 36 millimeters divided by 2. That is going to be 18 millimeters. Okay, I just realized I did that all off camera. Okay, but I showed my math here so that I could see 36 divided by 2, 18 millimeters. So that measurement is going to be our first height measurement from the bottom of my drawing space. I do apologize for bumping that. So now I'm going to, along this line, my first line that I drew, make a mark at 18 millimeters. Okay. I'm going to scoot my ruler up. My height is 60. So I'm going to go to 6 centimeters. Then it's 25 millimeters in between, so it's going to be 8.5. Okay, plus 40 millimeters, so I'm going to scoot this down so I can easily measure my 1, 2, 3, 4. Okay. At each of those locations, I'm then going to project my geometry over and from the top right corner of my front view, I'm going to use a 45-degree angle line to connect them. And it should be right on the center point for each of those. So now I have my total height, total width, total depth set up and centered in the middle of my drawing space. Now it's time to put in the details. So my front view is going to go right here in the bottom box, and I see a few different height dimensions. I see 25 millimeters on the left-hand side, 35 millimeters on the right-hand side. So I'm going to make those measurements. I gotta get out of the practice of using inches. So 25 millimeters is 2.5 centimeters. Okay. Then a 35. And take the time to square up your ruler, okay? Investing a couple extra seconds right now will save you a lot of time in the long run. So there's all my height information. My depth doesn't change at all from front to back. And so my width information, I'm seeing that there is a 25 from left to right, then 50 millimeters over, and then the rest. So I'm going to do two and a half centimeters. Okay. Move it to 5 centimeters, which is 50 millimeters. And then I'm going to transfer those points vertically to both my top view and along my front view. I have all my required boundaries shown, so now I can go in and darken my object lines. With my top view, it was the easiest for me to decide to start with because I can see absolutely everything there and the depth of it doesn't change at all. So I just darkened in my object lines. Now on my front view, that's what I'm going to do next. And I'm going to kind of just follow the lines around, keeping in mind that it's taller on the right side than it is on the left side. So I might actually start with the bottom line. Okay. Darken in my object lines. The final view is the right side view. Okay, and I will be able to see this line, and this line, but this one's hidden from view and it's a little bit shorter. So you're going to use a hidden line type on this line that we translated over. So you shouldn't have to measure again. All the information that you need is already there for you. You just got to make sure that when you're darkening your lines, you put the correct line type on the correct construction line. Hidden lines should be 1/8 of an inch with a 1/16 inch spacing, small and even. You don't have to take out your scale for this, just practice. It becomes a little bit more habit on how you draw it. The last thing I need to do is go in, double check that I erase any parts where I overlap or if I have an ugly dot. Make sure you letter your name and the date, and then turn it in for some points.